already know that the McDonald's in Corfu failed.
It failed. That's unbelievable. That's got to be a rarity.
It is very rare.
But is it because of the culture there?
There's so many good options that are delicious. The Greeks are all about. They're not about fast food. They're about the long
Experience.
the long leisurely meal.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go out, I'm going to sit there for 3 hours with my friends. We're going to have starters. It's a slow, leisurely. It's an event.
It's an event. It's an experience.
For a while, the teenagers liked McDonald's just because it was kind of
novel. Yeah.
But then it's not going to sustain you.
So what you're saying is, it's not so much an awareness about nutrition. It's more emphasis on the experience of getting together with friends and enjoying the dining event.
Right, exactly.
As a social event.
Now, that's just on the island that my dad's from.
Right.
There's still one in Athens.
Right.
That was super successful when it first opened.
Yeah.
And then the novelty wears off.
Yeah. Just like what happened in Moscow.
Well, I thought in Moscow they left because
Damn, there goes my theory.
So, hi, everybody. This is the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, Davio Venturas. As always, I'm with the esteemed cardiologist, Dr. Federico Macy. Most of you know him as Dr. Suave. I'm very excited to see you guys. We have an exciting podcast today, and we are going to talk about something that I'm very curious about, fast food.
Fast food.
I have to admit, Fred, I am a reformed fast foodaholic.
That is great.
When I was young, and I got to a very wonderful experience of living in Athens when I was a teenager. And for a while, just because of scheduling, I had the unusual experience, which you and I both share, of having my own place and having to feed myself.
Right. Yeah.
At the age of 18.
As a teenager.
Yeah. And the number one Wendy's at the time in the world was in my neighborhood. And I ate
in
Wendy's.
The world?
At the time. It was the number one.
Wow.
The Greeks, if there's a fashion, they all do it. So
at least for a brief time.
And then they never do it again. So
right.
It's but for a while that Wendy's was amazing. Actually, my son's godfather, his dad was the one who started that particular restaurant. That's a totally different story. But I ate there at least one meal a day.
At least one meal a day.
At least one meal a day.
That's impressive. Do you know how many people in the United States eat one meal a day in a fast food establishment?
As a percentage or the number?
Just gross number.
I'd say 50 million.
85
Wow.
million people eat at least one meal a day at a fast food establishment. What about families? Going as a family. Per week, let's say per week.
So how many families are there in the U.S.? 80 million?
It's a dwindling number, unfortunately.
Right. But it's like 80 million, something like that?
Perhaps.
So I'd say how many
What
families?
percent of all the families eat at a fast food restaurant at least once a week?
In the U.S.?
In the U.S.
70%.
83.
Wow.
You're very close. Isn't that impressive? And you know what the average is? 2 to 2.5 times per week that families, as a family, eat at a fast food restaurant per week. Those are incredible numbers.
What a coincidence that the U.S. also has record obesity and childhood obesity.
Yes, that's definitely back in the 70s. You know how many kids under, say, 16 were obese?
10%.
1%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why you look at all those photographs, beach photographs, city photographs, anywhere in the U.S.
Almost everyone's skinny.
And movies as well.
And the fat kid was the outlier.
Do you know what the percent of obesity is 2022 in those 16 and under? Obese, considered obese.
So obese, not just overweight, but obese.
Yeah.
35%?
Actually, no, not that high. Almost 20%.
That's still...
It's a huge number.
That's a 20-fold increase.
It's a huge number. And increasing.
For kids.
For kids.
So when I was a teenager, eating Wendy's every day, I was playing basketball all the time, like too much.
Right.
And I was in phenomenal shape. So, but these kids don't have that kind of lifestyle anymore.
Right. We touched on the various behavioral issues that have changed because of the phone, right?
Right.
So social media, sedentary lifestyle. And, if kids spend 6-7 hours a day on screen time, another 8 hours or even more sleeping, and then they're going to school, you've got a sedentary population that's at home munching on poor quality foods and then getting food at a fast food establishment. And now with Uber Eats and other delivery modes, you've got, huge marketing dollars going on, say, TikTok and YouTube.
Right, which is where they spend the most of their time.
Yeah, exactly.
We both have kids, and our kids are like, oh, I don't want to watch a movie. I want to just watch the YouTubes.
Or TikTok videos.
Right.
So influencers dominate the TikTok space with about, 43% of the videos have to do with fast food of one kind or another.
I did not know that.
It's a huge number.
That is awful.
Yeah, that's according to eatpalette.com. The exact number on YouTube, 42.8% of the most popular videos are by influencers promoting fast food.
You've literally left me speechless. I had no idea.
More than 1 billion views for fast food on YouTube per year.
Yeah, I'm stunned.
Right. But it's not surprising, right? In the U.S. alone, it's a $330 billion industry per year. Worldwide, just a little bit under $1 trillion per year. It's huge. McDonald's is number one. I think you sort of alluded to that.
Yeah, of course.
In the U.S., they make a $40 billion a year profit. You might be surprised what number two is in terms of, profit.
The number two fast food in terms of profit?
Yeah, you might not consider it fast food.
Chick-fil-A.
No.
Olive Garden.
Nope. Coffee place.
Starbucks?
Yes.
Oh.
Some might not consider it fast food.
Well, they're making most of their money from the coffee.
Yes.
But so is McDonald's.
So is McDonald's, which is strange.
Yeah.
And in that order, according to this site, Chick-fil-A is number 3, 16.7 billion profit. Starbucks, 24.3 billion per year. And as I said, McDonald's is 40.6.
To me, Chick-fil-A is the most impressive because they have a different corporate structure. The fact that they grew so big so quickly.
Yes. And they're open only
6 days a week. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they've
held that line.
I always offer to my kids to go to Chick-fil-A on Sundays.
Yeah, that's a good.
Next week. Next time.
Next week we'll see. Yes. Taco Bell though is number 4, 12.6 billion per year. Then Wendy's.
Then Wendy's.
And then 11.1. Yeah.
Burger King fell.
Burger King is just behind Wendy's. Yeah.
They used to be number 2, right?
I'm not sure how far.
When I was a kid, they for sure.
But they fall into number 6. And the cheapest meal would be at
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, yes, $3.37 is the average price per order.
Where's Subway on that list?
Way under. I didn't have it. They didn't have it listed on the site. But the most expensive of these top 6 that I mentioned is Wendy's, $6.63.
Well, I always like the classy
meal.
food.
Yes, so you were at least
that's why
eating classy in Greece, huh? You can tell. Anyways, McDonald's is cheap, $3.77 per meal.
There's a reason why people go to this, and it's not just because they engineer the food to increase the salt, increase the sugar, increase the flavor.
The flavors, right, that are addictive.
But also it's so cheap.
Because it goes through our prefrontal cortex and all the way to where?
The nucleus accumbens.
Yes.
Everybody take a drink.
There you go.
So
releasing dopamine. But more interesting, who do you think goes to McDonald's? If you had to pick a demographic that is your, standard, supportive, loyal client.
Is it middle-aged people?
Yes. 40 and above. What income level? Low? Intermediate? Intermediate to high.
Wow.
With graduate degrees. Yes. University degrees.
So I can understand.
And white.
So I can understand that because for me, it was really hard. At some point, I started noticing that every time I went to McDonald's, because there was a McDonald's in Athens when I lived in Athens. There was a McDonald's in England when I went to school in England. And it was like, I was sick of eating British food. You can only have so many Vindaloos before you're
right.
And so I would go to McDonald's for a treat. But as I started, as we were both athletes, I was trying to improve my performance. And I noticed every time I ate there, I felt awful afterwards, awful. And so I told myself I'm never going to eat there again.
Right.
It took me like 6 years to actually never eat there again.
To abandon the habit.
It was just,
But the marketing is so clever, or has been over the last 50, 60 years.
well, it's not just the marketing. The food tastes amazing.
It can taste
It hits those sugar stimulus receptors.
Right.
You go from fish and chips.
Yes. You release the same endorphins, the same enkephalins that activate the opioid receptors that give you that pleasure, that little spike in dopamine, right?
So what's the negative though? Because it made me feel awful, but maybe you can explain to me what was happening to me.
These are highly processed foods,
right.
right? With all kinds of preservatives and other chemicals that it's hard to even pronounce or recognize.
Right.
And so these are going to cause inflammation in your body. They're going to wreck your biodome. So your good bacteria, remember, we have over 10 trillion bacteria in our gut. And these type of foods, the processed foods that come from fast food restaurants, with their preservatives, with their chemicals for flavoring, they're going to wreck the good bacteria. And so,
please, everybody, go back and see our 15th podcast with Evan Hernandez.
Yes,
where we went in depth about how important the biodome is. Anyway,
correct.
Please keep going.
So you get a pro-inflammatory, pro-atherogenic, pro-thrombogenic milieu, and unfortunately, you also decrease with all that the endothelial function, so you do not make the nitric oxide.
The endothelial layer being the one in the
Of your
arteries
blood vessels.
that makes the nitric oxide, the NO.
So you get a suppression of the endothelial production of nitric oxide. So the enzyme in there, it becomes sluggish as a result of these chemicals that are put into your bloodstream so quickly. And that allows or prevents your blood vessels from dilating when you need them. So the worst thing you can do is have fast food before you go to a competitive event. You're not going to do as well. You don't get the vasodilatation.
And you know, when you're a kid,
Yeah.
that's one of the like perks of, we're going on the tournament XYZ.
And afterwards.
And for not afterwards, in between matches.
Yeah, terrible.
We have a morning match and then we have one in the evening. Lunch is, who wants Jack in the Box? Who wants Wendy's?
That's called coaching abuse. The coach doesn't know.
But they all do it.
Yeah, it's so common. So one thing that surprised me is if you look at the 10 countries that consume the most fast food worldwide.
All right, let me guess who those could be.
So the first one is easy.
U.S.
Yeah, we consume 33 or so % of all the fast food in the world.
Wow.
Now, we are a large country, so
We do not have 33% of the population.
yeah. But if you look, let's just stay there with the U.S. for a second.
Yeah.
So the average per person consumption of fast food per year, $1,200 per person in the U.S.
$1,200. So that's like 200 trips to Wendy's.
That's $100 a month, right? Per person per year.
So that's like going there at least 15 times a month.
It's a huge amount.
Half your day. Half your day.
Yeah. So United States consumes the most. Let's go back to our list of countries.
Okay.
So top 10. Second,
Mexico.
Canada.
Okay.
Third.
Is that by
This is
percentage or by
per capita? Per
Okay,
capita.
okay, per capita. Okay.
Yeah, per capita.
So Canada's second.
Yeah.
Mexico's third?
Third, no. France.
Wow.
France. Can you believe those French?
Well, the McDonald's in Paris. Have you been?
Yes, it's
like
the most successful.
Yeah, and it's
Of all.
Yeah, and it's really nice in there. It's like
yes,
it's like going into the Versailles or
Le
something.
Louvre.
Yeah.
Yes. But that
So they have started to eat a lot of fast food.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because they for a while were very anti.
France is number 3, and number 4.
Russia.
No, your old stomping grounds,
England.
England. Number 4. They love their fast food.
They really do. And if you had English food, you would turn to fast food
Yes.
too.
And then South Korea. South Korea, after the crash of 2008, really spiked their fast food consumption.
You're also listing all the geopolitical allies of the United States.
Yes. So we're talking about affluent countries.
Right.
All of them are in the top 10. And the other ones in order are Germany, Austria, Switzerland, surprising, and Sweden. Top 10
Wow.
per capita fast food consumption.
Consumption.
Yeah. Now let's look at obesity.
Number 1, U.S.
Nope.
Who's the most obese? The Samoan Islands?
The Cook Islands. All those islands in the Oceania, Tonga, and Samoa.
Is that a genetic thing or what's the reason for that?
They're Phenomenal point. So the quick of it is, yes, genetic predisposition when they used to be pretty well hunter-gatherers.
Right.
Fisher people. And then...
Fish and coconuts.
Yeah, and then...
Which is super healthy.
In the 20th century, with westernization of the world and those parts, certainly, got a nice delivery of high saturated fat and high sugar content foods, from the soft drinks to the breads, white flour, right, enriched, and alcohol.
So white flour lasts longer. Is that why?
No, it's just cheap.
No, but I mean,
Well, it can.
because they bleach it, right, to make it last longer.
Yes, but in part, it's
And then
just
people
cheap.
like the taste.
Yeah. So all of those products, the westernization, the colonialism, especially, in the in-between war time frame, when missionaries who were doctors were going to do research in Africa, Southeast Asia, they had not even seen one case of diabetes or one case of gout. In other words, chronic Western diseases that we've known about since the 1700s, with the fact that England was the one that was getting the sugar from the Caribbean and eating a lot of chocolate. And
Go back and see our podcast. I think it was number 4, where we talk about the evils of sugar.
Yes. So they knew these diseases that are affiliated, what I call Western diseases.
Right.
And then, of course, with the initial migration of these missionaries, they had encountered them. And within 1 or 2 generations, as more products from the West were brought to those islands and to those Southeast Asia and Oceania islands, the people who had been fishermen eating off the land fruits and fish and certain type of carbohydrates, now they were invaded with cheap, high-density, sugary foods and saturated fats. And so within 1 generation, their liver had not adapted, their pancreas had not adapted, they developed insulin resistance, and soon enough, we started to see in that population increased grotesque number of obesity cases.
Well, they have the highest percentage of per capita in the NFL.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
they're just so big.
Absolutely.
So do you know I can't think of the guy's name, but the inspiration for Robinson Crusoe, have you heard that story?
No, tell me about it.
So I wish I could remember the guy's name. I didn't even know that this was going to come to me, or I would have brought the information. But anyway, the guy that was found shipwrecked, basically, and was stuck by himself eating bugs and whatever he could find. They found him. This was in the 1700s.
Right.
And they rescued him. And he was, even though he was basically living like a scavenger,
Like a native there.
he was in the best shape you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Within 1 year of going back to England,
Yes.
he was dead from obesity, diabetes. His just body couldn't handle the high
sudden
sugar,
shock.
high flour diet anymore.
Impressive. Yeah, so those 10 countries that are affluent countries, that are the ones that per capita consume the most sugar, except the United States, are not in the list of the most obese.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe the fast food is good except for the U.S. Or what's the other conclusion we can have?
So it has to do, fast food's still expensive.
Relatively.
We may say that paying $3.77 per meal, per order at McDonald's,
well, for an American,
is cheap.
For an American.
But it is not
for most of the world.
for the rest of the world.
Right.
Right? It's still expensive when you talk about dollars.
Yeah, relatively.
Yeah. So,
It's a lot more expensive than rice with the smell of meat.
right. Someone paying, $4 or $5 for a hamburger in Mexico, it's expensive.
It's a treat.
Given the, standard of living.
Right.
And the salaries, right? Yeah, it's a treat. So people in those countries tend to cook more at home.
Right.
Which by and large is going to be healthier. But overall, they consume far many more carbohydrates and sugars. The poorer countries consume more sugars.
Because it's cheaper.
And carbohydrates because it's cheaper. So in South America, Brazil.
So what are the 10 most obese
Peru.
countries? U.S. is number 1. Canada's number 2.
No. That was the fast food.
Oh.
No, the 10 most obese countries, none of them are the ones I just mentioned.
Except for U.S.
Most obese countries by percentage of the population.
Right.
Cook Islands, 50.8%.
Oh, my goodness.
Palau, 47.6%.
We need to go to the Cook Islands
Nauru.
and bring some Chumby Bunny.
Yeah, 45%. Samoa, 43.4%. Tonga, 43.3%. Marshall Islands, 42%. Qatar, 42%.
Qatar.
Tuvalu, 40%. Kuwait, 39.7%. United Arab Emirates, 37%. Federated States of Micronesia, 37.2%. Fiji, 36%.
So you've basically listed some Arab countries and some Polynesian countries, basically.
So, correct. So the most obese countries by percentage, the U.S. is number 19, between Saudi Arabia at 34.7%, U.S. at 33.7%, and Libya at 33.1%. So the ones that are consuming the most fast food are not the most obese countries by percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Isn't it? Yeah.
What do you think the conclusion we can reach from that?
Well, again, it's the importation of calorie-rich foods, of cheap sugars, alcohol, sugary drinks, sodas. Those are the ones that have, in those countries, had the most negative impact, almost, I would say, from a health perspective, in terms of the impact of colonialism in those worlds, in those countries.
Well, Coca-Cola spends billions influencing the Pediatric Association, all those.
And the high fructose corn syrup that goes into those sodas is it's 55, higher than in the U.S. There's more fructose and sugar
in the ones they sell abroad?
In South America, Central America, Southeast Asia, than in the U.S.
Is that...
It's addictive.
Yeah.
Right, so it goes the same opioid pathway in the neurochemistry as we've discussed.
It's like a heroin
before.
addiction.
Yeah, correct. It's impressive. So, what do we do? This is almost a $1 trillion a year industry. And so it was surprising to me when a day or two ago I heard that for the last 2 years, McDonald's has lost food as a corporation. Lost food, did I say?
Yeah.
Lost money.
They've lost money?
Yeah, they're losing money.
Or
they're going to experience closure of thousands of restaurants worldwide.
But is that because eating habits have changed, or is that just because they can't find the labor to operate the stores efficiently?
That is a good point, the labor shortage and inflation. So their products are more expensive to make, and they want to be very loyal to the customer base by not raising prices. And I think those two consequences...
expensive fast food loses the plot.
Correct. So the inflationary pressures worldwide that we have as a result of multiple dynamics.
Mostly demographics and the Ukraine war.
And prior to the Ukraine war, of course, COVID-19 worldwide pandemic.
Yep.
So supply lines being disrupted. And you're right, the Ukraine war, less grain out there for people. So all of those dynamic. There may be others, issues with their franchisees where now they're saying, hey, the parent company takes too much and you want to take more from us. We're going to rebel against this. And maybe, although I doubt this is the case, people are coming to terms with the chronic consumption of fast food. Certainly.
I think people have been listening to the podcast.
Well, we hope. So if you look by age
right.
in the United States, if you take 20-year-olds to 40-year-olds, okay, what percent consumes fast food on a daily basis?
40%.
Very close. 44 to 45%. A little bit more in the young man than women.
Chandler.
It's a huge number, right?
Chandler's our producer for everybody listening for the first time.
Well, we heard him with the chewing. And what about 40 to 60 years of age?
I'm going to say that people get a little bit smarter from 40 to 60, so it's going to be slightly less. I'm going to say 35%.
Very close, 38%. And then over 60, it's still very high, 24%. These numbers are huge.
I mean, that's bad.
24% of that population is eating a fast food meal a day.
From what I've learned from you so far going through this podcast, and I feel like it's just really helped me a lot, and I wish people would go back and listen to them all because it's helped me so much. Young people eating fast food, it's not ideal, but they're resilient.
I get it. But
old people eating fast food, that's just, you might as well be trying to kill yourself.
Absolutely. So back to the young people. So my advice is if you're going to do it once a week, perhaps 2 times a week, and you're eating predominantly plant-based, few animal products, and exercising, you're going to be fine when you're 20 to 40. Okay? Once or twice a week. Certainly one is probably pretty harmless. Right?
Right. It's the 80-20 rule that you always talk about.
Right. So as you get older, less of the fast food is my advice. Once every 2 weeks, fine. You're in a hurry, etc. I get it. And make good choices and limit the impact of the supersize offerings, which, as you recall, that film from 20 years ago,
right,
The Supersize Me, had such an amazing message and impact.
Even though it was actually fake.
It could have been.
It turned out that he was totally
faking. Yeah. But the concept is a real one. And so those issues notwithstanding, I think that in order for us to really improve nutrition, certainly in Western societies, in the countries that consume the most fast food, we already named which ones, we need to do a partnership with fast food establishments.
Well, they've tried to do stuff, but they always find loopholes.
Well,
like the salads. Remember when they did a big deal about the McDonald's salads, and it turns out it was the least healthy thing in the menu?
Yes. Those dressings were just so full of sugar.
Right.
So Bloomberg tried to do it with the big gulp, the big sodas.
I remember.
Other
got
countries,
big time pushback.
Yeah, other countries tried, and there's a way to go around it, right? So other countries try to tax sugar with not so much of a positive effect because it impacted mostly people in a lower socioeconomic strata, and they kept consuming the fast food, right? So I think we need a partnership that does the exact opposite. And that is...
Instead of taxing, subsidizing?
No. A reverse sugar tax plan.
Yeah, you've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You want to explain it to people
RTP,
who haven't heard the
reverse
previous...
tax program, reverse tax plan with sugar. So you incentivize, let's use McDonald's as an example, to say take 5 menu items and bring the sugar down by 5 or 10% per year, and we'll tax you less on that product. And then the individual buying that product, the consumer, with a special card that you download or that you put in your phone, you can scan with a QR code. Every time you purchase one of those products, you get a little credit, a tax credit, the savings.
For eating healthy.
Yeah, for ordering the less sugar.
But what if I don't go to the fast food places?
That's fine.
Where do I get my tax credit?
No, this is for the people who are, as I said, everyday, weekly, monthly consumers of fast food.
Sure.
Okay. So what you're asking is to help. Let me frame it in a different way.
Okay, go for it.
We're part of trying to make the population healthier.
Right.
We know that these habits eventually lead to obesity, prediabetes, diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol issues.
Basically, they come into
metabolic syndrome.
It forces them to come into you.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I see them as patients later on, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, right? With serious conditions and extreme obesity and morbid obesity. So what is in it for you who doesn't go anymore to fast food restaurants? I take my kids once a week. Right. So you're still buying, but at a less number for the kids,
right.
Hopefully not for the long run. So
and they get healthy choices as well.
Right. So you're going to be benefiting from the fact that tax dollars will not be going to subsidize metabolic syndrome conditions, because by 2027, our national healthcare expenditures are going to be almost $6 trillion. And by the end of the decade, almost $7 trillion.
We had a whole podcast on that.
Right. And we're at $4.1 trillion, and all we're collecting in taxes is close to $4 trillion. So it's not a question of what benefit I get. It's a collective benefit for the country and the competition. So now the next fast food establishment says, hey, I'm going to enter their RTP program, reverse taxation program on sugar, and I'm going to offer these products, and I'm going to offer them really affordable so people, instead of putting a premium on those products, as has occurred in the past, to the healthier offerings.
Well, that's what has always confused me. Why is the really unhealthy stuff so cheap and subsidized as well?
The corn industry.
And we had a whole podcast on that. Whereas the healthy stuff, the mangoes and the walnuts and the pistachios, are not funded in the same way, even though that's what everyone should be eating.
Yeah, and the lobbies, the lobby dollars. I think we have to at some point come to terms with the long-term health of the nation. All Western societies should, because obviously we're going down a precipice in terms of the long-term effects and chronic conditions. 80% of all healthcare dollars are spent on treating chronic conditions. And now I put, a caveat there that maybe 30-40% of the money is being wasted. It doesn't end up helping patient care.
Well, listen, the hospital executives have to drive Cadillacs too.
Well, electric, right?
Right.
Yes. So I think it's an idea, and a pilot project or program or study can be done, to try it in 10 different demographics for 2 years and come up with something to see if you, in fact, are improving the collective health of the community. Difficult to prove. Nutrition studies are full of confounders and difficult
people lie, and
conclusions.
it's hard to track people.
Right, but this way you have the actual sales.
Right.
You know if people are buying it. So you have an objective number. How many people came in today and bought the burger that has 20% less sugar? How many got the tax credit for
I'm
it?
surprised they've never. I guess they have tried a pilot, and we just haven't heard about it. Like
I haven't never heard of it.
Yeah,
Just the opposite.
You would
more
think.
tax.
You would think
Yeah.
that they would do that as like an advertising gimmick.
If for all you politicians and influencers out there, you will keep eating like this, you will have erectile dysfunction. I mean, your nitric oxide will go down the tubes. I mean, I did a brief study back at Baylor in my training where I gave 7 professors. It was called a 7-professor study, a full McDonald's meal. Before doing it, I checked their nitric oxide vasodilatation in their arm. And then 30 minutes, 60 minutes, an hour and a half after consuming the meal, and the dilatation went down by 30 to 50%.
30 to 50? That is no wonder I always felt like crap after
Yes.
I ate McDonald's.
So if you really want to, dive the car into the ditch, and I know you're always about an inch from that ditch on a given night, you're out on a date, you have a couple of drinks, that suppresses the drive that promotes erectile function.
Sure.
And that allows for vasodilatation, including in your spinal cord. And then on top of that, you end up having a fast food meal late at night after you come out of the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to go home.
Right. Let's stop on the way.
You have a hot woman with you, right? Did he say Waffle House? My God. And so
we love Chandler. We love Chandler.
You sink your teeth into a pile of sugar and some fats and thoroughly enjoy that
and
dopamine
salt.
high for a minute.
And salt.
But what you will not be enjoying is the nitric oxide spike that you'll need
at the end of the night.
In order to be able to get a full, solid, bountiful, rocket-like erection.
It's so
it
funny.
won't happen.
People think of cardiologists just as heart attacks, but they don't realize that you're dealing with boner problems.
Yes, well, the
almost as
erectile
much.
dysfunction is a cardiovascular problem.
I was speaking to a friend of mine last night, and she's
For
younger.
most people, anyways.
And we've already discussed how guys my age are starting to really
Yes.
are starting to lose that ability, and I hear complaints. But what she was telling me is it's a problem. Her girlfriends, it's a problem with young guys now.
Yes, absolutely. I see it all the time. Today, I had a young couple as patients, and one of them said, "Hey, I hear he's only 32, beautiful looking guy, great shape." And he says to me, I'm getting a little sluggish. I said, "Are you having a problem in the bedroom?" Now, his girlfriend happens to be there. She's mid-20s. She says, no, he's doing okay. Well, he said, "I heard that maybe I should get on human growth hormone. One of my friends is on it, and he feels great, and he works out like a maniac.
We need to have
muscle."
need to have a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. So,
by the way,
HGH, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so anabolic steroids, HGH, and testosterone, among other supplements, have been used by bodybuilders and others who want to build muscle. So, let's talk about it a little more. I have your labs here. And I said, hey, your labs look great, except the last page.
Which was?
And on the back of the last page are 2 numbers. Well, three numbers: total testosterone,
Yeah.
free testosterone, and his vitamin level, B12, right? So they're all low. His testosterone level was at basically 80 to 90-year-old level
Oh my God.
of a guy 80 to 90.
And this is a
32.
32-year-old guy.
Yeah. He says, I have no energy. And I said, listen, you've been going on fumes here. You're going on borrowed time. You're pleasing your stripper girlfriend? No, I don't buy it, dude. And she looks at me like, dude, not so much. I knew it. I go, how did you blow out your balls? Because you got the balls of a mosquito. Seriously, like Mockingbird. Right?
I wish, I know you can't because of HIPAA laws. I wish you could just have a camera in your office.
God, yeah.
And
So
anyway.
she started cracking up.
Right.
And he goes, oh, my balls are big. I go, no. It's not the outside. It's not like rutabagas, dude. It's a production factory. It's not there.
Right.
So he finally admitted that he had taken an Uzi by taking anabolic steroids when he was a bit younger.
And that destroys.
It's one of the
Wow.
contributors to destroying testicular function. There are others.
Sure.
Most of them are viruses, radiation exposure, children who did not have their testicles descend on time, childhood illnesses. COVID can cause it as well in some susceptible individuals, and other viruses, okay? Trauma, cancer, accidents, etc. Okay? But anabolic steroids is one of them. So I'm talking about anabolic steroids for muscle building.
Right.
This is why bodybuilders have that reputation of having, I don't mean any criticism towards any, but of having low testosterone production endogenously, right? So,
But not all of them.
no. But it's a large number.
Right.
A large number.
You're susceptible to it when you do that.
Yes.
Is the point. Okay.
Correct. So I said, well, looks like I'm going to have to put you on hormone replacement therapy. And he goes, am I going to get boobs? I go, no, don't worry. I get it that the testosterone can be converted into female hormone.
Right. Especially if they're
estradiol,
obese.
Especially if they have
The
a gut.
visceral fat, right.
Because of the conversion that occurs there by an enzyme called aromatase.
Right, yeah.
So I gave him an aromatase inhibitor 2 days a week, and the rest will be his weekly testosterone. And then, of course, I told his girlfriend to report back on the performance.
Right.
I told him it's going to take 3 injections for the flag to work, right?
Right.
So he was at least pleased that there was an answer. And I said, hey, you need a couple of vitamin supplements because you're kind of low on B12 and vitamin D and so on. And I want you to go to the gym 3 times a week to do some resistance training. And I think that's going to help him enormously. But anyways, on that account, we have our producer, editor, Chandler Morrison, and he's going to enlighten us with a very important question. Chandler? Okay. So Chandler is going to enlighten us on some fast food consumption.
Yep. So, you can hear me now.
Welcome, Chandler.
Yes.
Again.
Do we need some applause? Not just kidding.
Looks like you're in a closet.
Actually, Chandler, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The segment you did with us on porn addiction, I have had more positive feedback from people that said it really had an impact on their life.
Including Alex, my son.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great to have you back.
Yes.
So you wanted to ask a few questions about fast food for the doctor. So hit us up.
Yeah. So for somebody that is looking that can't really get out of that fast food rut, and maybe they're just so busy, they have like a busy lifestyle, what would you recommend as far as the healthiest, not just the healthiest menu items, but like the healthiest, probably just go like with the healthiest fast food places you can go, along with maybe some healthier options you can get.
Okay. So
Go on.
I want to hear what you have to say,
No,
but
go on.
this is something that I've really thought about a lot. If you remember episode 7, the healthiest fast food place you can go to is Chipotle.
Yes. It's
That-
one of the healthiest.
As long as you don't
Right.
load up on the rice, load up on the bread,
Right.
but just do the meat and the veggies.
And the lettuce underneath.
Now, so that's that question.
Don't forget the beans.
The thing is, you need as many vegetables as possible and not potatoes, because that is what makes the good gut bacteria flourish.
Correct.
And as our most recent episode,
Because of the fiber.
you need that fiber. And if you can get your gut health good, then the rest takes care of itself.
And you'll crave fast food less. You'll crave less sugary foods. So
But
Chipotle is a very good option. And many of the fast food establishments have already have already told people with weight issues, we're your friend. We're going to have a couple of options for you. So McDonald's has a salad, right?
just don't do the dressing.
Just don't do the dressing. You got to either just put balsamic vinaigrette. I think they may have one like that. And the same for other hamburger places. The issue is,
Like if you go to In-N-Out and you get the burger, what's called protein style,
right,
where they give you a lettuce wrap, that's way healthier than the sugary bread.
correct.
The other thing I'd say to you is, in order to escape fast food, and I totally sympathize. I'm a single dad. I don't have anybody at home cooking for me. My trick, and you've been over to my house many
Right.
times, and I can whip up a fast food meal
In 10
that's
minutes.
in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And the reason is, I cook these big oven containers. What are they called? I can't think today. I take vegetables and I put them in the oven.
TV dinners.
No. I take like a big bag of broccoli from Costco, or a big bag of Brussels sprouts, or a big bag of asparagus.
2 TV dinners. When I met him, that's what he was doing. In front of the TV.
I never ate TV dinners.
With the gravy. Huh?
When he met me, my ex-wife we had a vegan restaurant. I ate super healthy. But now, since I've been single, I've had a journey. If you cook the vegetables ahead
That was
of
the
time,
marijuana they called vegan.
if you cook the vegetables ahead of time and then store them in your fridge,
Yes.
then when you get home, set it at 350, cook them for 10 minutes.
Yes. Or
And
even,
then as it's reheating, you can just grill a piece of chicken, grill a nice piece of meat.
yes.
And then you sit down, you've got the small portion of meat, the vegetables
In other words,
are ready.
there are some people who have busy lifestyles who choose 1 or 2 days a week to do meal prep, where they'll buy 6, say, chicken breasts and veggies, cook them all in 1 hour on a Sunday night, put them in their Tupperware. Some get frozen, and they're pretty well ready to go. So whether you take one to work or not, with
I cook
vegetables,
I cook the vegetables
twice a week.
twice a week.
Yeah.
And then
So those are strategies to economize on time.
And money.
Because look, to lose weight, you got to pull on 3 levers.
okay, what are the
Okay.
3 levers?
The first one is you have to eliminate or restrict some foods. And
Right.
those are the ones you were talking about. The high sugar content foods, right? So white flour, refined sugars.
Like the bun on your burger,
the buns, the breads, pasta, rice, potatoes.
the supersized potatoes.
Right. Tortillas, corn chips, corn and flour tortillas, all of those. Obviously, sweets. You got to restrict those. The second lever is schedule of eating. So I like doing intermittent fasting, where I have 2 meals a day between 1 and 2 p.m. and 6 to 7 p.m. That's it. So I don't have breakfast. That's just my personal preference. I have a coffee with steamed almond milk, or steamed coconut is even better, and maybe stevia, and that's it. And water, of course. And then the 2 meals from 1 to 2, 6 to 7, mostly palm-sized protein, starting with chicken, seafood, and less of the red meat. Red meat, the recommendations by the International Cancer Society are 3 portions or less of red meat.
A week. Right.
Per week. The size of your palm. Okay? So it's about 18 ounces
All right,
per
another
week.
question. Yeah, I was going to ask another question.
Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So with a lot of people, going on vacation, by the time this thing comes out, it'll be midsummer, it'll be vacation peak season.
Right.
How do you balance, hey, I'm on vacation, I'm going to relax a little bit with my diet, versus just going overboard, and then you get back and you've set yourself back probably like a month's worth of progress with the eating you've done and the lack of exercise and diet that you put into?
Well, when you're doing the right thing, say for a few weeks, where you're consuming predominantly plant-based foods, as Davio mentioned, 2 palm sizes of vegetable salad with your protein. You're doing that twice a day. your body chemistry, your biome starts to change. When you go on holidays, you're going to be far more picky about what you do. Because
that's real. That's real.
when you go on holidays, you're going to go, nah, I don't want to, I get it at this. I'll walk an extra block. They've got a great salad bar over there and great chicken, and I'm going to do that. So number one, your mindset, your biodome, the bacteria, the good bacteria there, and your brain communicate to all of a sudden crave better quality foods. That's number one. Number two, you will see such good positive changes in your body in terms of your endurance. So if you're on holidays and you need to walk or you're swimming, you're going to the beach, you're jogging, you're going to look better in your bathing suit. You're going to feel better about your, body image. You're going to have more stamina and endurance. And you're probably going to want to go the extra way to be more physically active and choose holiday destinations that demand exercise, not just sitting, suntanning, drinking all day, consuming cheap calories that are being brought to you by whatever waiter because they're free or because they're cheap. Like sitting around and eating nachos all day and consuming 6 to 12 beer, you're not going to want to do that as much, especially when there are women around or other young people that are partying, many of whom are in good shape. You want to be part of that.
My answer, and I want to hear your last one, but the 80-20 rule, man.
Yeah.
Even when you're on holiday.
You stay on the plan.
I went on holiday to New York, as you guys all know, and I had a few.
Haven't stopped talking about it.
I never will. It was such a great trip. It had been too long. But I went out, and I had the cannoli that was across the street from my elementary school,
right,
and it was incredible. But I didn't have 3.
Right, you had to.
And I did eat some unhealthy meals, and I definitely drank a few of the days. But I didn't do it every day. When I was young, if I was on holiday, it was like, woohoo, every day, go for it. I had a great time, but I didn't abuse myself.
Right.
I did a few days, but out of the week I was there, 2 of the days I went a little bit overboard, but it wasn't in a row, and it wasn't every day.
But you're also in New York. You were walking with great weather.
Oh, so best weather.
So that you put a bunch of miles daily.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Especially the days that I ate poorly.
Yeah. So his lifestyle was conducive to exercising, being active, and I think that's the way to choose holiday destinations and stay in that 80-20 rule.
So last question.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fast food, okay, and I want to answer from both of you on this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fast food chain, national brand that like most people that listen to this podcast, not just Dallas people, Texas people, like just everybody that's going to listen to this podcast?
So the answer can't be Whataburger. Got it.
Well, it can be. I mean, that's a pretty national brand.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, it's like in New Mexico. They put one in Tennessee. I know. Anyways.
If it's in Tennessee, that's national.
That's international.
That's
international.
That's Nashville, not national. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyways, out of the national food brands, even the ones we mentioned that y'all mentioned earlier, what would be the 3? Or let's just do the 2 fast food brands for each one of y'all, fast food chains that you would avoid eating at all costs because 90% or more of that menu is just gonna be unhealthy and not going to be beneficial.
Number 1, McDonald's. The healthiest thing at McDonald's is the ice cream, and it never works. Number 2 is Chick-fil-A, which even though my sweet son Hudson, he's the only one of my kids and he loves Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
The chemicals.
I want you to look at this. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So.
The chemicals that they put to make that stuff taste so delicious is
Harmful.
you're the one who explained it to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
a while back.
is unbelievably harmful.
Yes.
So those are the 2 that I would avoid at all costs.
I mean, it's unhealthy for the same reasons that my grandmother's cooking is unhealthy because she just like does lard by like the gallon, not by the teaspoon or anything. She just throws it in there.
She doesn't add the flavor chemicals that they put in.
Yeah, it's amazing. So
what are your answers?
So my number 1 to avoid is Taco Bell. The horrific quality
That's bad news.
of their ingredients is one of the problems. And the second issue I have with it, celebrities who market for Taco Bell. And recently I'm talking about Charles Barkley,
LeBron James.
Others who are doing Taco Bell. I think the guy who was on SNL, what's his name?
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson. I mean, guys, seriously, it's really kind of hypocritical.
It's grotesque.
It's grotesque because, Charles just lost about 62 pounds on Mounjaro. So that's the once a week injection that tells your brain that you're full, and that also slows down gastric emptying and optimizes pancreatic insulin secretion. And when that happens, that tells the brain that you're full. So he lost 62 pounds on a once a week injection. The medication on average costs between $1,000 and $1,400 a month. Okay?
Golly.
So that's out of the realm for 90% of Americans. Okay? And yet he's marketing for Taco Bell.
Like he doesn't have enough money.
Or like you haven't thought it
That's
through.
terrible.
I mean, the $5 meals on Taco Bell. And, I get it that
What's your number two most
the
horrible?
NBA and all these other leagues are also promoting these things because of money. But I think there has to be a social consciousness by people who are influencers like Charles Barkley. I may like him on many aspects about his basketball knowledge, his great personality, and other factors, okay, which he's very upfront about things. And I like that. But on this issue, Charles, if you ever listen to me, come and debate me on this. Tell me why this is the right message for young Americans who are impressionable, and why this is going to help us prevent cardiovascular disease, which is my passion.
Of course, that's the whole point of our podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
So number two are pizza places that are all you can eat, like Cece's.
Right.
I think that's just an opportunity to gorge on both white flour ad nauseum,
Well,
and the cheapest quality cheese full of saturated fats.
and the high
and
salt, right? Isn't that the problem?
The salt is hideous.
Are
for
you the one who did
hypertension.
the test of somebody who ate one slice of
Yes.
pizza? Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
told
as
us
well.
about that. Yeah.
So, salt content, preservatives in that flour to keep it going for long, sugar content per slice, saturated fat per slice, and other oils that are just hideous. There's absolutely almost zero positive value in those foods. And then a kid may have 6 to 8 slices.
Oh yeah.
So if you say one slice is about 180 calories, total calories, most of which 50% or more are from the sugars and saturated fats, with maybe you have a little bit of veggies in there, but then you add the cheap
What if it's a
tomato
supreme,
sauce?
what about a supreme pizza?
Yeah, well, supreme is even higher. So
Supremely higher.
someone can easily consume 2,000 calories
Right.
in one
Sitting.
paying $10.99 for all you can eat plus the soda, and come out of there with such a negative impact
With
on
their
your
nitric
body.
oxide levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hamburger joints are the most common worldwide in terms of fast food. Then pizza joints, okay? And then the third are sandwich establishments, then chicken, and only 7% are Mexican. So the Mexican, other than the Taco Bells, okay, are okay because you can
make choices. You can get fajitas.
Yeah, and you can get a few veggies. You
Right.
can have a few beans.
Are fajitas pretty healthy?
Yes, as long as you limit
Don't
the
wrap it,
tortilla.
right.
You may do one corn tortilla, and that's it. Don't do more, and certainly don't do the flour tortilla.
Yeah, don't eat the fajitas as a sandwich.
Yeah.
Just eat it like a steak.
Like a steak, and maybe
With
a
the
couple of
veggies on the
chips,
side.
some hot sauce, and the veggies on the side. You can have pico, which is great, and you can have a little avocado, which is
Guacamole
great.
is great for you.
Yeah. So, that's a nice meal if you're in a hurry, more so than the ones I mentioned. And certainly Taco Bell being kind of a Mexican concept, it really is a betrayal of what true Mexican food is.
Sure.
It's just
Because
pathetic.
the secret of Mexican food in Mexico is that the ingredients are so fresh and amazing.
Correct. Yeah.
And that does a lot of the work, whereas
And these
Taco
are
Bell
not.
uses chemicals to try
Yeah.
to.
So I think overall, as a country with diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease continuing to increase, especially with an aging population, we need to have more awareness about what foods are harmful to us. So if I had to give final advice to young people in your age group, you got to do 5 things. You got to connect with others. That's how you get your oxytocin. Not through social media, not through fake friends. Number 2,
By the way, that needs to be a segment. The
Connection.
connection. Ever since you have explained that to me and how that works, I've been noticing it left and right. And people who stray from connection suffer.
Correct. Yeah. Isolation creates anxiety, depression. It lowers your dopamine, lowers oxytocin, and it's a vicious cycle, right? And then you reach for quick dopamine-producing highs in harm to yourself.
In risky behaviors.
Correct.
Right. So that's number one. What's number two?
Number two is eat real food, predominantly plant-based. Number three, exercise. Number three, exercise. Do something every day. Move. If you have to divide the world to those who move and to those who sit, I can tell you who's going to
show up in your office
and less disease. And the next one is meditate. Be creative. Do something that decreases stress. Go for a walk.
Perfect.
Right? Not necessarily for an exercise. Just walk to the park bench, take a book, read for 10 minutes. Whatever it is. Listen to music. Read a book. Write a book. Write a poem. Listen to a poem.
Paint a picture.
Listen to our podcast.
And tell your friends to listen to the podcast.
Number one. Let me start again. Number one. and then last one is be spontaneous. Spontaneity can be a tremendous thrill.
Well, changing, it allows your brain to experience new things, and that increases nucleus accumbens, dopamine, the whole thing.
My friend called me and said, meet me outside. I'm outside your door. Let's go for a walk. I need to go to the grocery store. Perfect. Or I got a call from my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Hey, what are you doing now? Hey, let's go to, the Arboretum, right? I need to buy some flowers. Come with me. I'll pick you up. Whatever it is. Spontaneity is essential for the renewal of our neurons and our happy feelings.
And keeping us feeling young.
Keep serotonin, emotional stability, and, of course, preparing us to have our daily dopamines.
Do you have any more questions, Chandler?
I think that's it. I just had a few that
Perfect. Good.
I was thinking about while y'all were talking.
No, that's great.
Add into the conversation.
We need to have that gives me an idea. We need to have a question and answer episode where people send in questions.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps this one up. So
so let's have some questions for those of you who are interested in a particular topic or food or supplements, whatever it is, and follow us on
YouTube. Rate us and like us and share and subscribe on YouTube. Rate us on Spotify. Subscribe on Spotify. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok.
Right.
Did I got him all right this time?
I think you did. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chandler, for joining us.
Yeah.
Dr. Federico, as always, Dr. Suave, thank you for your insight.
And when you go to Greece, make sure you do not visit that single Wendy's. I'm sure it's gone by now.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone.
That's great when those go away by non-demand.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, great. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. You going to do your thing?